Hey guys, today I want to share a book that I've learned this term, and the name of the book is called Fahrenheit 451. If you if you're interested, and you would know, because this book is very famous and it was written by Ray Bradbury. And this is an interesting book. Okay, today I'm gonna share. So here we have the introduction, and this book mainly has three parts. Okay, now I begin with the first part, which is the Hearth and the Salamander. It was a pleasure to burn. It was a special pleasure to see things eaten, to see things blackened and changed. With the brass nozzle in his fist, with this great python spitting its venomous kerosene upon the world. The blood pounded in his head, and his hands were the hands of some amazing conductor playing all the symphonies of blazing and burning to bring down the taters and cargo ruins of history. With his symbolic helmet numbered 451 on his stolid head, and his eyes all orange flame with the thought of what came next. He flicked with igniter, and the house jumped up in a like, my pronunciation is not like super good, so I probably gonna have like some difficulties. For example, jump up in a gorging fire that burned the evening sky red and yellow and black. He strolled in a swarm of fireflies. He wanted to, above all, like the old joke, to shove a marshmallow on a stick in the furnace, while the flapping pigeon-winged books died on the porch and lounged off the house, while the books went up in sparkling whirls and blew away on a wind turned dark with burning. Montag grinned the fierce grin of all men singed and driven back by flame. He knew that when he returned to the firehouse, he might wink at himself, a minstrel man, burned corked in the mirror. Later, going to sleep, he would feel the fury smile gripped by his face muscles in the dark. It never went away. That smile, it never went away, as long as he remembered. He hung up his back beetle collared helmet and shined it. He hung his flameproof jacket neatly. He showered luxuriously, and then, whistling hands in pockets, walked across the upper floor in the fire station and fell down the hall. As at the last moment, when disaster seemed positive, he pulled his hand from his pockets and broke his far back, grasping the golden pole. He slid to a squeaking halt. The heels 1 inch from the concrete floor downstairs. It's so weird. He walked out of the fire station along the midnight street toward the subway, where the silent, air-propelled train slid soundlessly down its lubricated flue in the earth and let him out with a great puff of warm air onto the cream tile escalator rising to the suburb. Whistling, he let the escalator waft him into the still night air. He walked toward the corner, thinking little at all about nothing in particular. Before he reached the corner, however, he slowed as if a wind had sprung up from nowhere, as if someone had called his name. The last few nights, he had the most uncertain feeling about the sidewalk just around the corner here, moving in starlight toward his house. He had felt that the moment before his making the turn, someone had been there. The air seemed charged with a special calm, as if someone had waited there quietly, and only a moment before he came, simply turned to a shadow and let him through. Perhaps his nose detected a faint perfume. Perhaps the skin on the back of his hand on his face felt the temperature rise at this one spot where a person standing might rise the immediate atmosphere 10 degrees for an instant. There was no understanding it. Each time he made the turn, he saw only the wide, unused, buckling sidewalk, with perhaps on one night something vanishing swiftly across the lawn before he could focus his eyes or speak. But now, tonight, he slowed almost to a stop. His inner mind, reaching out to turn the corner for him, had heard the faintest whisper. Breathing? Or was the atmosphere compressed merely by someone standing very quietly there waiting? He turned the corner. The autumn leaves blew over the moonlit pavement in such a way as to make the girl who was moving there seem fixed to a sliding walk, letting the motion of the wind and the leaves carry her forward. Her head was half bent to watch her shoes stir the cycling leaves. Her face was slender and milk white, and in it was a kind of general hunger that touched over everything with tireless curiosity. It was a look, almost, of pale surprise. The dark eyes were so fixed to the world that no move escaped them. Her dress was white, and it was whispered. He almost thought he heard the motion of her hands as she walked, and she infinitely small sound now, the white stir of her face turning when she discovered she was the moment away from the man who stood in the middle of the pavement waiting. Jesus. Okay. The trees overhead made a great sound of letting down their dry rain. The girl stopped and looked as if she might pull back in surprise, but instead stood regarding Montag with eyes so dark and shining and alive that he felt he had said something quite wonderful. But he knew his mouth had only moved to say hello. But then, when she seemed hypnotized by the salamander on his arm and the phoenix disc on his chest, he spoke again. "Of course," he said. "You're a new neighbor, aren't you? And you must be..." She raised her eyes from his professional symbols. "The fireman." Her voice trailed off. "How oddly you say that. I'd have known it with my eyes shut," she said slowly. "What? The smell of kerosene? My wife always complains." He laughed. "You never wash it out completely." "No, you don't," she said in awe. He felt she was walking in a circle about him, turning him end for end, shaking him quietly. and emptying his pockets without once moving herself. Kerosene, he said, because the silence, her length is nothing but perfume to me. Does it seem like that? Really? Of course, why not? She gave herself time to think of it. I don't know. She turned to face the sidewalk going toward their homes. Do you mind if I walk back with you? I'm Clarice McLean. McClellan. Oh my God, McClellan. Clarice. Guy Montag. Come along. What are you doing out so late, wandering around? How old are you? They walked in the warm, cool, blowy night on the silvered pavement, and there was the faintest breath of the fresh apricot and strawberries in the air. And he looked around and realized this was quite impossible so late in the year. There was only the girl walking with him now, her face bright as snow in the moonlight, and he knew she was working his question around, seeking the best answer she could possibly give. I'm retarded. Well, she said, I'm 17, I'm crazy. My uncle says the two always go together. When people ask you your age, he said, always say 17 in the insane. Isn't this a nice night to walk? I like to smell things and look at things. And sometimes stay up all night, walking and watch the sunrise. They walked on again in silence, and finally she said, thoughtfully, you know, I'm not afraid of you at all. He was surprised. Why should you be? So many people are afraid of firemen, I mean. But you're just a man, after all. He saw himself in her eyes, suspended in two shining drops of bright water, himself dark and tiny, in fine detail, the lines about his mouth, everything there, as if her eyes were two miraculous bits of violet amber that might capture the whole and hold him intact. Her face, turned to him now, was fragile milk crystal with a soft and constant light in it. It was not the hysterical light of electricity, but the strangely comfortable and rare and gently fluttering light of the candle. One time, when he was a child, in a power failure, his mother had found and lit a last candle, and there had been a brief hour of rediscovery of such illumination that the space lost its vast dimensions and draw comfortably around them, and they, mother and son, alone, transformed, hoping that the power might not come on again too soon. And then Clarice McClellan, Clarice McClellan said, "Do you mind if I ask, how long have you worked at being a fireman?" "Since I was 20, 10 years ago." "Do you ever read any of the books you burn?" He laughed. "That's against the law." "Oh, of course. It's fine work. Monday burn Millay, Wednesday Whitman, Friday Faulkner, burn to ashes. Then burn the ashes. Yeah, burn them to ashes, then burn the ashes. That's our official slogan." They walked still further, and the girl said, Is it true that a long time ago firemen put fires out instead of going to start them? No. Houses have always been fireproof. Take my word for it. Strange. I heard once that a long time ago houses used to burn as accident and they needed firemen to stop the flames. He laughed. She glanced quickly over. Why are you laughing? I don't know. He started to laugh again and stopped. Why? You laughed when I haven't been funny and you answered right off. You never stopped to think what I've asked you. He stopped walking. You're an odd one, he said, looking at her. Haven't you any respect? I don't mean to be insulting. It's just I love to watch people too much, I guess. Well, doesn't this mean anything to you? He tapped the numerals 551 stitched on his colored sleeves. Yes, she whispered. She increased her pace. Have you ever watched the jack cars racing on the boulevards down the way? You're changing the subject. I sometimes think drivers don't know what grass is or flowers because they never seen them slowly. She said, if you showed a driver a green blur, oh yes, he'd say, that's grass. A pink blur? That's rose garden. White blurs are houses. Brown blurs are cows. My uncles drove slowly on the highway once. He drove 40 miles an hour and they jailed him for 2 days. Isn't that funny? And sad too? You think too many things, said Montag, uneasily. I rarely watch the parlor walks or go to races or fun parks, so I've lots of times for crazy thoughts, I guess. Have you seen the 200-foot long billboards in the country beyond town? Did you know that once billboards were only 20 feet long? But cars started rushing by so quickly, they had to stretch the advertising out so it would last. I didn't know that. Montag laughed abruptly. Bet I knew something else you don't. There's dew on the grass in the morning. His son couldn't remember if he had known this or not, and it made him quite irritable. And if you look, she nodded at the sky. There's a man in the moon. He hadn't looked for a long time. He walked the rest of the way in silence, her thoughtful. He's a kind of clenching and uncomfortable silence in which shone her accusing glances. When they reached her house, all its lights were blazing. What's going on? Montag had rarely seen that many house lights. Oh, just my mother, my father, and uncle sitting around talking. It's like being a pedestrian, only rare. My uncle was arrested another time. Did I tell you? For being a pedestrian. Oh, we're most peculiar. But what do you talk about? She laughed at this. Good night. She started up her walk. Then she seemed to remember something, said, where was I? Then she seemed to remember something and came back to look at him with wonder and curiosity. Are you happy? She said. Am I what? He cried. But she was gone, running in the moonlight. Her front door shut gently. Happy. Of all the nonsense. He stopped laughing. He put his hand into the glove hole and his front door and let it know his touch. The front door slid open. Of course I'm happy. What did she think? I'm not? He asked the quiet rooms. He stood looking up at the ventilator grill in the hall and suddenly remembered that something lay hidden behind the grill, something that seemed to peer down at him now. He moved his eyes quickly away. I've got an idea. Should I read it in the British accent? Like it would be like more interesting. Okay, I'll try. So, what does straight mean on a straight night? He remembers nothing like it saved one afternoon a year ago when he had met an old man in a park. They had talked. Montag shook his head. He looked at a blank wall. The girl's face was there, really quite beautiful in memory, astonishing. In fact, she had a very thin face, like the dial of a small clock seen faintly in a dark room in the middle of the night when you waken to see the time and see the clock telling you the hour and the minute and the second, with the white silence and the glowing. All certainly knowing what it has to tell of night passing swiftly on towards further darknesses, but moving also toward a new sun. What? He asked Montag of that other self, the subconscious idiot that ran babbling at times, quite independent of will, habit, and conscience. He glanced back at the wall. How like the mirror to her face? Impossible. For how many people did you know that refracted your own light to you? People were more often. He searched for a smile. Found one in his work, torches blazing away until they whiffed out. How rarely did other people's face take off you and throw back to your own expression, your own innermost trembling thought. Okay, I'm gonna turn back to American accent because it's very hard. No. What incredible power of identification of the girl had. She was like the eager watcher of a marionette show, anticipating anticipating each flicker of an eyelid, each gesture of his hand, each flick of a finger, the moment before it was began. Now, how long had they walked together? 3 minutes? 5? Yet, how large that time seemed now. How immense a figure she was on the stage before him. What a shadow she threw on the wall with her slender body. He felt that if his eyes itched, she might blink. And if the muscles of the jaws stretched imperceptibly, she would yawn long before he would. Damn. Why, he thought, now that I think of it, she almost seemed to be waiting for me there in the street, so damned late at night. He opened the bathroom door. It was like coming into the cold marbled room of a mausoleum after the moon had set. Complete darkness. Now a hint of silver whirled outside, the windows tightly shut, the chamber of a tomb world where no sound from the great city could penetrate. The room was not empty. He listened. The little mosquito delicate dancing hum in the air, the electrical murmur of a hidden wasp snug in its special pink warm nest. The music was almost loud enough so he could follow the tune. He felt the smile slide away, melt, fall over, and down on itself like a tallow skin, like the stuff of a fantastic candle burning too long and now collapsing and now blown out. Darkness. He was not happy. He was not happy. He said the words to himself. He recognized this as the true state of affairs. He wore his happiness like a mask, and the girl had run off across the lawn with a mask, and there was no way of going to knock on her door and ask for it back. Without turning on the light, he imagined how this room would look. His wife stretched on the bed, uncovered and cold, like a body displayed on the limb of a tomb. Her eyes fixed to the ceiling by invisible threads of steel, immovable. And in her ears, the little seashells, the thimble radios, tamped night, an electronic ocean of sound. Most music and talk of music and talk coming in on the shore of her unsleeping mind. The room was indeed empty. Every night the waves came in and bore her off on their great tides of sound, floating her wide-eyed toward morning. There had been no night in the last 2 years. Mildred had now swum the sea, had not gladly gone down in it for the third time. Okay, now I'm gonna try to read like our English teacher, how he reads. Okay, the room was cold, but nonetheless, he felt he could not breathe. He did not wish to open the curtain and open the French windows, for he did not want the moon to come into the room. So, with the feeling of a man who will die next hour, for lack of air, he felt his way toward its open, separate, and therefore a cold bed. An instant before his foot hit the object on the floor, he knew he would hit such an object. It was not unlike the feeling he had experienced before turning the corner and almost knocking the girl down. His foot sending vibrations ahead, received back echoes of a small barrier across its path, even as the foot swung. His foot kicked the subject, gave a dull clang, and slid off in darkness. He stood every straight and listened to the person on the dark bed in the completely featureless night. The breath coming out from the nostrils was so fine it was stirred only the furthest fringes of life, a small leaf, a black feather, a single fiber of fire. Okay, now I'm gonna turn to normal. He still did not want outside light. He put out his igniter, felt the salamander etched on its silver disc, gave it a flick. 2 moonstones looked up at him in the light of his small handheld fire. 2 pails of moonstones buried in a crack of clear water over which the life of the world ran, not touching them. Mildred, her face was like a snow-covered island upon which rain might fall, but it felt no rain, over which clouds might pass their moving shadows. but she felt no shadow. There was only the singing of the thimble wasps in her tamped shut ears, faintly and in and out of her nostrils, and her not caring whether it came or when or came. The object he had sent tumbling with his foot now glinted under the edge of his own bed, the small crystal bottle of sleeping tablets, which earlier today had been filled with 30 capsules, and which now lay uncapped and empty in light of tiny flare. As he stood there, the sky over the house screamed. There was a tremendous ripping sound if two giant hands had torn 10,000 miles of black lint down the seam. Montague was cut in half. He felt his chest chopping down and slip apart. The jet bombs going over. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 6 of them, 9 of them, 12 of them. One and one and one, another, did all the screaming for him. He opened his own mouth and let their shriek come down and out between his bare teeth. The house shook. The flare went out in his hand. The moonstones vanished. He felt his hand plunge toward the telephone. The jets were gone. He felt the lips move, brushing the moon's mouthpiece of the phone. Emergency hospital, a terrible whisper. He felt that the stars had been pulverized by the sound of black jets and that in the morning the earth would be covered with their dust like a strange snow. That it was his idiot thought that he stood shivering in the dark and let his lips go on moving and moving. Okay, today I'll read until here. It was a long story, bruh. It's kind of like super hard to understand because there are a lot of hard vocabularies and something like that. So I feel like I didn't read anything. Like I didn't understand like most of apart from them, yeah. Like I can't say most of them because I understand like the concept, but I don't understand like the details and something. Okay, so next time I will read until 22, the last sentence, which they had this machine. Okay, I will continue next day. And this is just a record. I just want to record myself and reading, like practicing English and reading books. And yeah, I think today that's it. So thank you for listening my reading. And yeah, okay. So this is it. Bye. And I'm gonna see you in the next video. Bye.